The Innovators Network.
Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
Welcome to this week's show. We are continuing our series of guests coming to the show to share their experiences and expertise around innovation and creativity. Today's guest is actually as a result of me appearing on his show. Today's guest is Stephen Key. He has a YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out, you should. It's called InventRight TV. I appeared on his show a couple of weeks ago talking about a new innovation contest that we've announced called the 10G Challenge. It's a contest, total value of up to over $300,000 in prize money. Top prize wins $100,000 for the best idea, and it's non-dilutive and no IP ownership transfers. You can win $100,000 and keep your idea that you can then commercialize and license, whatever. So I was on Stephen's show talking about the 10G Challenge. We talk about that in today's show. But Stephen's expertise with InventRight is around licensing ideas, licensing innovations, finding companies that will license your idea, giving you a revenue stream, and them giving access to your creative ideas. Now, Stephen's been in this space for quite some time. Interestingly enough, we've never had really crossed paths. His area of focus is in toys and in packaging versus mine being in electronics, primarily consumer electronics products and services. And so it's interesting, though, that Stephen and I have very similar philosophies around innovation and what does it take and the creativity and etc. So as a result, he and I have just, quickly become friends. I've invited him on the show today to share with you his expertise around licensing, how to come up with that idea, but more importantly, if you want to be a professional inventor, as Stephen calls it, such that you generate a revenue stream from your ideas, from royalties. You don't want to go build a business. You just want to invent and create. You want other people to commercialize it, but you want that revenue stream. This is the show for you. So don't go anywhere. You're going to want to listen to the whole show. It's a little longer than normal, not quite as long as some of the other more recent shows, and I apologize. I get so engrossed in the interviews, we tend to let them go and we go long, but hopefully you find that beneficial. But before we hop into today's show, got that favor to ask. Follow, like, and share. Follow us on social media so you stay up with everything going on. Like this episode, wherever you get your podcast, go give us a thumbs up, give us a plus, give us a heart, whatever social media platform or wherever you get your podcast, so other people can find the show and then share it. If you know of somebody that could benefit from today's content around licensing of ideas and how to do that as a professional inventor, as a professional innovator, then share this show with them. So with that, without any further ado, let's jump into this week's episode.
This episode is sponsored by Zoom. With Zoom, you can streamline your communication, collaboration, and creativity all in one place. Zoom is the market-leading platform that provides video meetings, voice, webinars, and chat across desktops, phones, tablets, and conference room systems. To learn more about Zoom and sign up for your free account, visit killerinnovations.com/Zoom.
So, Stephen, I have to say, it was a blast being on your show. You and I had such a great time. I don't know how many segments. We probably recorded, 3 segments for your show, all in one setting?
Well, it was so good. It's so interesting. I had to do more than one, Phil. I couldn't get it all into one. So, yes, we did 3.
And it was interesting because you and I both have been, like you said at the beginning of the first episode, which was we've both have been in the innovation game for so long, but our paths have never crossed because, you're in the toy packaging side of innovation versus I'm into consumer electronics and tech side of innovation. But when we finally got connected and we started comparing our views, our perspectives, our thoughts, we're kind of like, I don't know, long lost brothers or something in in the innovation space.
Well, you know what was amazing about that? You're right. We were in two completely different, industries, probably the same place, right? I mean, Silicon Valley. I took kind of the more lighthearted with toys and eventually packaging, and you were right there in the hotbed of innovation. I kind of missed that boat, but what I found was really interesting was your feeling about certain things about innovation and how it happens. And I was just surprised how much our thoughts just aligned with innovation. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it also comes from, both you and I have been in the game for quite some time. And, we've got all the battle scars and, all the, the challenges of dealing with U.S. and international patent, structures and licensing, and you though being the licensor, me being the licensee, acquiring intellectual properties from inventors. When I was a CTO at HP. So it's interesting because you think about those two communities, maybe kind of a little friction, trying to how do you work together. That we might have different perspectives, but we didn't. Now you've got though a pretty extensive following for your InventRight TV channel. Your YouTube video series, etc. And you do a lot of coaching and mentoring and advising of inventors. Are your followers heavily in the game packaging, or is it much broader than that?
Well, it's much broader than that. I ended up in packaging by mistake. I started out with a startup company in Fremont, Worlds of Wonder, back in the late 80s with Teddy Ruxpin and laser tag. And I was employee number 20. So I started kind of in the toy industry and ended up in the packaging industry because there was less competition, Phil. And I liked the numbers of it, because they're consumable. So it was fascinating to me. But my audience is anybody with an idea in any industry. And it could be tech, it could be medical, it could be pet, kitchen, hardware, fitness. It's all over the board. Anybody that's got an idea that really doesn't want to start a business, right? They want to stay creative and they're not quite sure what to do. Maybe they don't have the money, the experience, or the time. And they're smart enough to realize, geez, I just want to be this creative person. What do I do? And so my audience is interested in the licensing business model.
And so, it's interesting, as you and I were talking before we started the show, licensing has not been a big topic that I've had on the show. Now that we're in, season 18, we started the 18th year of doing this show. And I realized when I came on your show and we were talking, we've never really talked. That's why I wanted you to come here to talk about licensing, because it's not been a topic we've talked about. And for us, it's a lot about leadership and innovation cultures and those kinds of things inside of organizations and skills and getting your employees to kind of find that creative spark in them. In your case, it's a lot of the inventors side of it, but the licensing side of it. Now, like I said, at HP, we did acquire a lot of licenses. We had a lot of individual inventors would bring ideas to us. We had a process and a team that just, looked at those as potential sources of new ideas to enhance products and et cetera. But it's always been a little bit of a black box, because I always think about, wow, you've either got to have a heck of a Rolodex or somebody that's going to fund the effort, because it's not a quick process to go out and do licensing.
Well, Phil, you're trying to help, organizations be more creative. And I'm saying to you, well, maybe That's hard to do. You know how hard that is to do, right? So you're teaching them, you're trying to mentor everybody. And I'm saying, hey, wait a minute, there's an easier way here. Okay, why don't we open our doors to find those people that are creative, right? And that's what this licensing business model is all about. It's finding those companies that realize maybe we don't have the smartest guys behind the walls, right? Or maybe we realize we're not experts in all the fields. So why don't we open our doors and see if we can find that new technology from startups, inventors, and other sources to help us achieve our mission? That's what it's really all about.
Is there a standard kind of model to license an idea, or is it almost like one off based on what the idea is? The models are completely, I'm trying to figure out, is there a process to this, or is it, you gotta?
Well, there is a process to this. I've been doing this my whole career, licensing my own innovations in all different industries, but what we realized that, yes, there is a process. And the first part of it is recognizing that companies are going to keep innovating if they want to stay alive, right? And if you can get out ahead of it as an inventor, product developer, and say, all right, what's going to happen next? What are they going to do next? What is the market telling any of us? And if I can come up with those ideas, thinking ahead, and then showing those companies that are in that category, right? And looking at their product line very carefully, really understanding who they are. And you said that last time we talked, that most people don't understand that, but you have to really know the companies, the culture, their business. And once you understand it, and then start to create for them. So you know what it's really like? It's like I'm working for a company for free, right? But if they happen to take my idea or my invention, whatever you want to call it, they're going to pay me a royalty on each and every one they sell.
Right.
So it's really working on spec. So when you look at it that way, and if you open your doors, you can have a lot of really amazing people working for you for free. It's an amazing model, and it's been around for a long time. Open innovation, if you look at, let's say, the toy industry, it's probably 100 years old. They've been working with outside creative people for a long, long time. But now, I would say in the last 10 years, it has exploded in all different industries. Now, there are a few that the doors are still closed, and those are usually, I call them dinosaurs, Phil. Those are dinosaurs. And those, they don't want to open the doors, because opening the doors is not easy either, right? There's some pain with that.
Well, there's also risk, right?
Oh.
This is, speaking from, my side of the table at HP, we would get I'd get these random emails from people, because my email was public, anybody could email me. I even put my mobile number on my business card at HP. So anybody and everybody had my mobile number. Right. And I'd get these emails from people that with an attachment, and you'd go to open the attachment, and the first page has big bold letters, confidential, right? Blah, blah, blah. And I'd immediately have to delete the file, delete the attachment, and notify the person saying, I cannot accept any confidential information unsolicited, because we literally would get thousands of these a month being blasted in. And so therefore, big companies are kind of like, whoa, because this creates all kinds of legal exposure, claims that someone stole their idea, all these things. So then you got this gap. And I agree with you. There's a great untapped source of highly creative people who want to be independent. They don't want to be doing the 9 to 5. They want to they want to invent, and you want to tap into that. But that gap is a problem.
Well, in some industries, the best talent leaves.
Yep.
Okay. And it's hard to keep that talent. You know that firsthand. It's hard to keep it. So you still want to be able to tap into that talent, right? And give them what they need to keep creating remarkable things for you. So, but you're right. There's a problem at times. Inventors are approaching companies incorrectly, or maybe companies don't have a process in place to review submissions. Some companies are just so large that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. So there's too much exposure. So you're right. The real large, these multi-international companies, we can be a headache to them. We're not a solution. We're a problem most of the time. So it's difficult at best, but if you're a company that really does embrace open innovation, you can put some things in place to kind of protect both parties, let's say, right? And that's what you really want to do. And it can work out. And those are really great relationships. We see a lot of ideas that get licensed that are just changing industries, right? And these creative people want to be creative, but they don't want to do the heavy lifting. They know what they're good at, and they know those companies that have the shelf space, relationship, the manufacturing, the marketing, they have everything in place. They're really a perfect partner. That's what licensing is finding that perfect partner that has everything in place today, because today it's speed to market today.
Yep.
Now there's a lot of startups out there, and licensing is not, you're right. Licensing is like, what is it? I know it exists out there. It's not being taught, but today, because of the ability for companies to copy, okay, let's say, I'm going to say that's not infringing, but let's say copy and influence by, if you're a startup and you come up with an idea today and you venture it, there's a very good chance it's going to be copied very, very quickly if it's a good idea. But for a startup or an inventor to license it to a market leader, let's say, they've got a better legal team, number one. They've got the shelf space, the relationships with the retailers. They can get it out so fast, and that is the best form of protection.
Yeah, well, it is, and that's what I tell people about. Don't ever bank on your patent being your defense. It is not your defense. Not unless you've got a big fat payroll that's going to be willing to put.
Phil, patents they're going to protect me. They're the great leveling tool. I'm going to be the small inventor. I'm going to use that big stick. You're right about that, but you have to be practical about it. And I think that intellectual property patents are great tools, but today I don't know if there's such a great tool for litigation. I was at a conference. I think I was the only inventor there. It was a conference of all litigators and patent attorneys. They let me in by accident, Phil, and they didn't know. But they were talking about, the whole topic was how to monetize your ideas, how to monetize patents. And I'm thinking licensing or venturing, and they're thinking, no, suing. I'm like, wait a minute, litigation? That's what it's the wrong mindset. I don't think they should be used that way.
Well, as you and I have talked before, at HP, the patent pool was about 38,000 patents, and we sold thousands of patents every year, right? They get later in life. Maintenance fees get really expensive, so now you're trying to shuffle that off onto other people. But we had 300 patent attorneys on the payroll, either outside law firms or internal people, because of how much we got sued, right?
Okay.
And you got a lot of, the trolls who are just looking to see what they can squeeze, and hey, I'll let you license mine for $1 million here, $2 million there, and they're trying to keep it below litigation costs. So you kind of make the decision. Am I going to spend $5, $10, $20 million to litigate this? Or do I just pay $1 million to make the person, go away? And it really has tainted the whole process, because then every patent litigation coming in is viewed skeptically. And it may be perfectly valid. It may be an inventor who's got something that, maybe you are stepping on someone's toes or whatever. But, once you've gotten burned a few times through this, then you look at every inbound litigation as skeptical.
Yeah. Well, patents are just words to be interpreted by different people at different times. Yep. And we have lawyers to help us determine the interpretation of those words, and that's where it gets a little hectic. I also think that the USPTO, like I said, I'm a big patent holder. I believe in the system. It's broken. I do think probably those patent examiners should look at those, those patent filings a little bit more carefully. I know they have some great searching tools, but it seems like that prior art seems to bite you if you look long and hard enough or
Yep.
have an argument. The system's a little messed up. And I don't have any answers to fixing it. I do write about how to write a bulletproof patent, which is impossible, but I have fun trying to do that. And there's a whole system that's kind of built around people's innovations and dreams, right? And I think it needs to be worked on a little bit. I still think we need to have incentives to innovate. I think we have to have incentives to play fair. I think this whole system's really amazing, but I'll tell you what's happened at the USPTO and the new laws, and you're right, the trolls or the narrative of the trolls and everything else that's going on, it's confusing, Phil.
Yep.
It's confusing for everybody.
Yep.
And I don't like how it's structured to where it truly doesn't help to commercialize these innovations for the better of humanity, right? I mean, the betterment of humanity. It just doesn't. It should.
Right. It should. I want to back up. You talked earlier about companies, organizations tapping into these highly creative people, and that those people should think about the target, who, being very familiar with the company, very familiar with the customers, very familiar with their strategies. I could tell you that probably 95% of the inventors who approached HP did none of that. They had no familiarity with our product lines, our customer base, the customer segments we served, where new segments we wanted to go into, but hadn't been able to really define the hook to get into those segments. And if an inventor came to me with a really being very, very thoughtful and had done their research on that, conversations would go a lot different.
Yeah, there's a disconnect, right? A lot of companies are not going to put on some of that information we're talking about. It's hard to find. You have to really dig, and it's not going to be posted on the front of their web page or home page, right? Their mission statement and what they're looking for, right, or some of the details. But you're right. You hit the nail on the head. As inventors and product developers, we really have to understand the company's goals. If we don't, it's really hard to create something for a company if you don't really understand their product line, their mission, their kind of vision, their supply chain, costs. There's a lot to it that most inventors are not looking at it that way. They're looking at it from their perspective all the time, right? Me, and they have to stop doing that. You have to put yourself in a position of looking at the company, really understanding them. Then you have a different conversation, because if I know your company and I can have a conversation with you, you're going to allow me to understand it and have a dialogue, and maybe I can hit your target, right value. So I think inventors have to invest time with those clients, those potential licensees, and then those potential licensees, once they see that dedication or that time spent, maybe we'll spend a little bit of time with that person that's creator to say, all right. But it's an investment of time for both parties, and I don't see it happening very much.
Well, and I'll go back to my HP days. We did what I call innovation by acquisition. So companies got really interesting tech, we just buy the company, right? Even that, in the 10 years I was at HP, we did 88 acquisitions, that I would say qualified kind of as innovation by acquisition. We also had 300 PhD researchers in HP labs inventing every day, right? And then you had 40,000 engineers creating products every day, right? You had unbelievable resources. But even with that, it was some of what I would call real game changers for us came from outside organizations. It could have been a lone inventor, and typically it was almost an accidental find. Somebody knew somebody who said, hey, you ought to go take a look at this, right? Because the blind, cold emails, when you're getting thousands of them, it's hard to find the one in there that made any sense. But Also, I can tell you the conversations I had with people who really thought about what was HP's mission, our customer base, about our technologies, our competition and what our competitors were doing relative to us, and how they had an idea to go after a market opportunity. And I can tell you that I could probably put those on my 10 years. I could put those on two hands and have fingers left over. But I remember those. I can tell you every one of those inventors, because odds are we did a deal with them and we put their technologies into a product that shipped.
Yeah, we call those professional inventors, Phil. That's what we call these guys. Okay, and it takes some time to understand that. We see that when you're dealing with very large companies, it's usually a team too. It's not just one person, right? You might have someone that understands the manufacturing, supply chain, maybe material, maybe the intellectual property. It's really bringing the right team together to take away some risk when I'm presenting my innovation to a company. So they have the confidence, they know what they're doing. This is a team, they've done their homework. They really understand the landscape very, very carefully. But Phil, look at it this way too. You just mentioned that you've got a lot of overhead with all these engineers, right? And, I mean, you've got this big thing that you built, and realize all those people that are there, those engineers, they're watching the clock at 5 o'clock and Saturday, Friday afternoon. I mean, they're there. They're an employee, okay? And that mindset of being an employee is very different than that mindset of that creative person that wants to change the world. That person that feels that way doesn't work 8 hours a day, works all day long and Saturdays and Sundays. He's a fanatic. He cannot stop. He's one of those nutcases that's so motivated. And it's not so much the paycheck, but it's the recognition of creating, right? And they're out there, right? And they're kind of odd sometimes, right? They're very dedicated. So when you think that you have this structure of all these people that are employees doing something, can you really get the best out of them? I think you can. I do. But you work on that, right? That's what you do. You work on getting the best out of those people. But there's all these other people that are outside those walls that are going to give you their heart and soul day in and day out. And that's their goal. So the point is when you try to find those people out there that really want to make a difference, and there's no 5 days a week, they're working 7 days a week. They've got this burning desire. And if you can tap into those individuals, I think it's a resource. Right?
So here's a question for you, right? Because the hard part for any organization that wants to tap into that is, how do you find them, right? And there's been a bunch of attempts at creating these open innovation platforms where businesses post a challenge in order to get people, to get inventors to apply. Okay. P&G does this a lot. Pharmaceutical industry, biomedical has been doing a lot of this most recently on some new platforms. Do you believe in these platforms as one way to tap into this?
Well, I do believe in the way you're doing it. Okay, but I don't think a lot of them do it that way. See, the challenge that you just presented to my audience, the 10G, was truly remarkable because it was in different categories. It was the future. You talked about a prize, but you talked about access. It wasn't like, here's a contest and thank you very much. We're going to take it and we're going to pay you $10,000. Thank you very much. Go away. We got it. There's no incentive for that person I just talked about. What I really like what you talked about, look, this is dollars that you can win. They're yours. Do whatever you want. File for your patents. Do, whatever. And then we're going to bring you into a situation where you can meet all these decision makers. I don't know if all these type of challenges are like that. Some of them are not.
Yeah, and just to fill in the gap, because not everybody, the listeners, heard about the 10G challenge. I talk about it on your show, but I don't talk about it.
I
don't talk about it on my show. So we've announced, and actually I was on Steven's show because my PR team at Cable Labs booked me, and that's how Steven and I originally met. But the 10G challenge is a contest that we're hosting about what are the new services that are going to run on multi-gigabit broadband networks. What's the future going to look like? Total prize is $300,000, well, $310,000 technically total, in 4 categories. You can win $50,000, best idea in whether you're living better lives, have home health, medical, those kinds of things. Learn. You can win a $50,000 prize for the best idea around education, future of education. Work. What's the future of work going to look like? Another $50,000 prize. Another $50,000 prize on play. What's the entertainment going to look like? Gaming, new kinds of movies, videos. And then the best overall can win $100,000. And this is non-dilutive, non-equity prize money. So you own your IP still. You don't have to hand it over. You don't have to give it to us. You can use the money to build your prototype, to go build your company. The industry's not interested in owning your idea. We know what we do well. We build a platform for others to innovate on top of. So yeah, we did a different approach to that than a lot of because the only other contest is solve this problem for this amount of money, and you solve it. We get the solution, you get the money, and that's the disconnect. Versus what we're trying to do. And the story we talk that I always share is I said, look, the broadband industry has always been a great platform that sparked innovation. Back when the cable industry finally offered 20 megabits to consumers' homes, they were like, woohoo, we got 20 megabits, world's great. What happened? YouTube got invented. Netflix got invented, right? All of these, Vimeo got it, all these new online video media kinds of services got created because they're like, wow, 20 megabits. What could I do with 20 megabits? Oh, I can stream video. Now you got over-the-top streaming, and you got all the streaming services, all of that. We're now talking about 1 gig, 2 gig, 5 gig, up to 10 gigabits. What would you do with 10 gigabits? And I think you're right, though. The reaction we've got is everybody's like, so what's the string attached to this?
Well,
everybody's skeptical. They're like, so you own the idea, right? No, we don't even require a license, right?
Well, you saw how shocked I was when you told me that on the interview, right? I was like, what? I guess we don't, getting back to your question, to find those people that are innovative, to bring them into your world, those type of contests that you're doing, yes, you can find those people now, and you need to get that word out, and I want to help do that. But I do think not all of them are like that. I think there's a string attached, and I'm not wild about it, Phil. I just don't think the type of people you want are going to be caught with a $10,000 prize. That they're not. It's not so much the money; it's the recognition. But that's an insult, right? So I don't think they're. I think it's a very poor idea. Is what I think. So
well, again, when I was back in my HP days, you were talking about people that will just work weekends and nights and all of that, and we had a lot of those in the HP family. But the best motivator I found for those people was ship their idea.
Oh,
it wasn't about did we give them more HP shares in their RGU units, or did we give them a kicker in their bone? Okay. For them, the money is kind of more like I give that to my significant other, make them quiet so they don't complain that I'm working weekends, right? So that's it's not for me. Give them that so they don't. I don't have them squawking in my ear because I'm working weekends. Shipping, because I've seen more engineers, they haul their family into Best Buy to stand in front of their product and go, "That's my product, and I kicked butt."
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that, I think, from a creative standpoint, from a creative person, that's all I wanted. I wanted to walk down to the store and go, "Look at me, look what I did."
Yep.
All right, so it's a whole different way of motivating somebody, and I think you're right about that. That whole shipment, to see it on maybe TV or people using it. I remember I have this packaging technology, and I was at a graduation and up in Bozeman, Montana, 14,000 people. My innovation was on a water bottle. You can spin it and give you more information. And I looked around and everybody was spinning my water bottles because they were selling my technology and all the drinks in the whole stadium. And people were like, wow. And I'm thinking, that's why I did that, because I felt that way. I wanted other people to feel that way and I could experience. So it's powerful. But I want to get back to, how do you find those people?
Right.
Phil? You find them by being fair, if you do find them, by being transparent, by treating them with respect, by having, if it's a portal, explaining your process, explaining what you're looking for, and make it so they understand how the game is played, and either they could play or not. And if you have certain barriers, let that be known. This is what we want. This is what we don't want, right? And this is how you have to play. And the ones that keep coming back are your players.
Right.
Right. And they will, and you'll see a lot of them will drop off. Most people just drop off. You'll never see them again. But there's going to be a few there. They keep on coming back. Those are your guys.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm trying, like I said, the number of times I've had a conversation with an inventor, not a company that's established and gotten their VC dollars, but a true inventor that's got an idea that they thought was a good fit, and they'd done their research and had pre-thought all of the questions I was going to ask and already worked out their answers. And they knew more about the business than probably a number of people inside of HP knew about the business. They'd really done their research. And those are the ones that I really engaged with. And you're right, because those are ones that we then stay connected to. We actually started a little event where we would bring them in and actually brief them on our business and share with them kind of some interesting opportunities we were seeing out there, right? Because you're right, you get their labor and their brain cycles for free in the process of just being willing to be open, with them and treating them respectfully, not as, oh, you're some crazy kook and you've got this wacky idea, and but finding that connection point, that ability to connect and find them, because you gotta, as I always say, you gotta when like at HP, the term we used, we had to kiss a lot of frogs. We just had teams just literally looking at thousands and thousands of ideas submitted each year, and you just got to kiss a lot of frogs to see which one's gonna turn into the prince or princess.
It's a needle in the haystack.
Yes,
it's terrible, and it costs you money and time and exposure. So,
yep.
I wrote a book. It was called "How to Become a Professional Inventor," and I interviewed 30 open innovation companies, everybody from Conair to Fender Guitars to Hasbro, and I just wanted to hear from behind the scenes what do they need, what are they looking for, and how can we help them be successful by licensing our technologies. And what I found is all different. They all have different requirements, but the one thing that came through for all of them, it's all about a relationship, and that relationship takes time to build. And it takes time to invest both sides. But once you do have it, that's when true innovation starts to happen. Because you say, hey, this is not quite right, but we're looking for this. Or if you change this, it's that dialogue. Like you said, bringing them in. There are, and the other issue too, is that who's talking about this? You would think that all the patents that are filed at the USPTO, that there would be some information on, from a business perspective, how to commercialize your inventions, right? Okay, see, that's the rub here. That's the thing I don't understand, is that if you teach people to do a better job, they're going to file more intellectual property, they're going to be more innovation, they'll be more successful. There's a great investment there, but no, they don't. It's like an elephant in the room. They don't want to talk about it, or maybe something else will be exposed. But I think it all comes down with education. I think it should start earlier. And it's not just about patenting one-on-one. Who cares? Anybody can learn about that. It's about how do we use that that intellectual property from a business perspective that really helps us become more successful.
So talk a little bit about because you put a lot of content out on your InventRight TV. So talk a little bit about your show and what you share over there.
Well, about 20 years ago, I realized that I wanted to talk about this, Phil, because I think I didn't know anybody would care, and I guess I was wearing out all my friends talking about it. And, my wife was probably tired of it too. So I started talking about it, and I realized real quickly that there's a lot of inventors, product developers are probably a little frustrated with the process. So, and I found a process that was just really easy. And the process was selling the benefit first, right? And it wasn't about prototypes. It wasn't about patenting or starting a business. It was selling an idea first, selling the benefit first of an idea. And if you could do that, then maybe you do some of the other things. So it allowed you to test ideas very, very quickly, to see which ones had legs, see if anybody really wanted it. And we started this YouTube channel called InventRight TV about 10 years ago. And it's kind of just grown. And what we do, we shine the light on fellow inventors. We tell stories. We give content away, right? We give people a roadmap of how they can license their inventions in all different industries. And we've been doing it for quite a while, 830 videos. But I've also written 1,000 articles. Wow, I can't believe it. 1,000 articles on this topic. You had mentioned that number yourself. Over 1 million words, 5 books on the licensing business model. And it's I have to kind of laugh at myself because it's really quite simple. But why all the content, Steve? I guess because you have to keep on telling that story, getting people interested, showing how it works. And I think it gives even the thing about the licensing business model I think I love the most. It breaks down barriers for anybody in the world to do this. It does not matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what type of financial situation you're in. You could be in high school and do this. So I like to think that we break down the barriers. Sometimes you don't need IP. Sometimes you don't need certain things that you think you need. You don't. You need to understand the concept, the process, companies, and all these things. And you can play without quitting your day job. You can play. Anybody in the world can play. So.
Yeah, and you were talking about education, right? You were pointing out that the patent office would be the perfect place to help educate, which they don't do. But you also have done work in order to actually start introducing the idea of inventing even in schools, right? So you've got your InventYes program, right, that you co-founded, which is really about product licensing for students, right? So make students aware that this is another valid path for particularly those students that are very creative, who are inventors, who just bubble over with ideas.
Well, we've learned some of the large inventing organizations for kids. It kind of stops, right? They teach kids how to write a business plan, build prototypes, to do all these really amazing things, and then it just stops. So I think what I like to say, look, it doesn't have to stop, right? You can still take it further by learning about licensing. And that's going to teach you how to market. That's going to teach you how to protect. That's going to teach you how to reach out to companies. There's a whole life skill that you can learn by that and even license at that age. So what I'm trying to show everybody, and I do work with the K-12 Office of Education over at the USPTO, and I just want to explain to them, you don't have to stop with this. We can give them the tools, give them the vision so they can get excited about it and not just go, well, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, or let's just give them a patent. No. Why don't we give them an opportunity? And let's give them an opportunity that they can see how they can change the world or change themselves or change people. I mean, it's just an amazing opportunity that it's not really being discussed.
Yeah.
So InventYes is a program that's absolutely for free for kids. It's our system that we use for adults, but kids can use it too. So it's free. We believe that the only way for people to really watch and learn and get motivated is by showing them success. So that's why we shine the light on inventors. I think they're superheroes, and I think we got to keep doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am 100% agreed. So, Stephen, if people want to track and keep up with what you're doing, or how do they, what's the best way for them to connect and see what you're up to, and maybe even reach out if they're looking for help on licensing their idea?
Well, thank you for asking. I would say the first thing is just find us on YouTube, InventRight TV. I think you'll really enjoy that. They're like potato chips, Phil. You watch one, you have to watch another one. So I think that's a great way to start. If you want to read a little bit about intellectual property from a business perspective, you could go to Forbes. I write for Forbes. And then I write for Inc. and Entrepreneur and all those crazy places. So I'm pretty easy to be found. And if you ever want to reach out to me directly, go to LinkedIn, just connect, and ask me a question. I'll connect with you. And if I can help point you in the right direction, then I would love to do that.
Great. Hey, Stephen, thanks for taking the time. I had a great time on your show. Enjoy really what you shared with our audience, here on the show today. And I'm sure we're going to stay connected, and we'll be on each other's shows, not in the too far future, helping each of our listener bases to take their innovations and to go change the world.
Thank you so much, Phil.
Thanks. So what'd you think? Wasn't that a great discussion? If you haven't checked it out already, I would encourage you to go over to YouTube, search for InventRight TV, or you can look for Stephen Key, Stephen, last name Key, Key. So you can go over there, find it, more than 100 episodes. A couple of those episodes are me on his show, talking about the 10G challenge. So if you want more information about this contest, and the time is short on this, you have to have your ideas submitted on the website 10gchallenge.com to have your shot at winning $100,000 for that best idea. And you can use that $100,000 to pay for your patents, to actually build your prototype, to launch a business, to do work to get ready to try to license your idea to others, whatever it takes. That $100,000 that the top prize winner can win will be decided in July. So you have to have that in by the end of June, 10gchallenge.com. So if you want to know more about the 10G Challenge, go over to InventRight TV. I talk about it. Stephen actually did a whole show where we just talked about the contest. But one of the things I wanted to highlight in the summary from the main segment for today's show was around professional inventors, professional innovators. What does that really mean? If you're working up an idea and you're trying to convince somebody, like if you approached me when I was the CTO for Hewlett Packard, what was it I was looking for to make a decision to take your idea, commercialize it, and pay you for that idea? And that is knowing the target. And that's done by doing the research. You need to know your target. You need to know their business, their customers, etc. There's actually been a topic on the last couple of shows around getting acquired, getting someone to buy your IP, etc. So professional inventors, professional innovators. Stephen talks about that. Steve talks about his 5 books. Get the books. Read that. But I think specifically the focus on being a professional inventor and professional innovator is start with the benefits of your idea, not the idea. We get enamored with the technology, the whizzy, the shiny object. Focus first on the benefits. Start with the benefits. That is the one message I want everybody to walk away from today's show on, is you're working on your ideas and trying to change the world. convincing people to join up with you, to give you money, give you support, give you investment dollars, whatever it is, start the conversation around the benefits of your ideas, not the idea itself. Learn more, hop on over to InventRight TV, buy Steven's books, check those out. You can't go wrong. With that, I want to wrap up today's show. We've already gone long, so we're going to make this a really quick wrap up here. Thank you for your time. Your time is valuable. We value it. We greatly appreciate you. Send us feedback. If you've got guests who you think would be great on the show, we've actually had a number of you send in some names. We've already had them on the show. So again, keep sending those guest suggestions in. People you want to hear from, whether you know them or not, give us a name. We'll do the reach out and see if we can't get them on the show. But with that, thanks again. Go out there, take your ideas, change the world. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.
This show is distributed by the Innovators Network. For more information and other great shows and content, visit theinnovators.network.